Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we're going to continue on with my 148 tactic project. Part of that project is making terrain boards. I'm making 9 1-foot square boards that when you put them together, obviously, you're going to have a 3x3 table. And for 148 tactic, that's all you really need. I've decided just recently to branch out and do snow terrain. So we're going to do Woodland Scenics snow in today's terrain tutorial. I'm going to show you how to do snow. Okay, but before I do that, I want to tell you what work I'm working with. Okay, if you watch my channel, you would have seen me make a number of terrain tiles for my market garden project. I made these tiles with, you know, the grass and the flock and all that stuff. I used, and you can kind of see underneath, it's got the board, right? So I used a 1/8 or 3mm 12x12 plywood. I had taken foam, I'm sorry, not foam, cork. I had some 12x12 cork. These here are about a 1/4 of an inch, and I glued them to the plywood. And then I painted them and I flocked them, and I also made road pieces and things like that. Okay. But I made so many of these, I made enough of these to cover 2 tables. I was planning on making enough to do 3 tables, but I decided that the 3rd table I could just use a fabric cloth. So I've come to the conclusion that I have too many of these, and I won't need that many specifically for 148 tactic. I only need about 9. And then if we decide to ever make like a little bit bigger table, I could do another 3 or another 6, and then I could cover a slightly larger area. 148 tactic does not need a full table of tiles. But if I ever do need to cover a whole table, I can still use these green ones. It's just that I wanted to make some snow ones. Let me put this away. Okay, so what I planned to do was take some pre-existing corkboard and plywood and make these tiles without having to redo them, right? So what I did was I took some Rust-Oleum white spray paint and I sprayed it down. Right, I sprayed the green. Specifically, I sprayed the edges, because when the 2 pieces are together, the gap between, you don't want that to be black, because then you'd have all these black lines on the table. You want it to match the snow. So I painted the edges white. And this used to be grass, just like this. All these used to be grass, just like this. And I sprayed the top, and on some of these, I sprayed with a gray primer and a white primer to kind of just dull down the green effect. Okay, so what you get is a tile that is gray with maybe a little bit of white along the edges. Okay. Now, before we start applying any snow to the tile, we need to apply, okay, there's a couple more Woodland Scenics products that I have. I have Scenic Cement, okay, which is technically, it's a very watered down PVA. You can make your own mixture, but the Scenic Cement comes pre-mixed. You don't have to mess with it. And then I also needed flex paste. Okay, flex paste is kind of and we're gonna put it on this tile right here using a 1-inch brush. or maybe this is, yeah, it's a 1-inch brush. Okay, so I'm going to kind of show you the consistency of flex paste. Do you see that? It's kind of how it looks a lot like an acrylic paint. Okay, and I'm just going to dab some of this on here. And I'll dab more if I need it. Okay, what this will do is it'll dry with I'm only applying a very thin coat because all I want is a flat table. If I was doing like snow drifts, then I could come in and I could model some snow drifts with this flex paste, and when it dries, it would have all the bumps and the ridges and it would look really good. But I don't need it for that. All I need is just a flat coat. So I'm just putting a 1-coat coating. They recommend about a 1/16 of an inch. To me, that's just, I'm not even worried about a 1/16 of an inch. I'm just trying to paint the whole thing with the flex paste. And you can see it doesn't go very far. And one of the reasons why it's not covering very well is because of the texture of the surface I'm putting it on. It's got all that grass, you know, the flocking. It's made this feel a lot like sandpaper, and because of that, it needs just a little bit more flex paste than you would on a flat surface, like if you just had plywood or something. Okay. Now, what flex paste dries like, it dries flexible, okay? Because that's what the name implies. It's kind of like I want to say it reminds me of like a silicone, but it's not. And when you put it on top of your foam board, which your cork and your plywood, when it dries, it appears to be like rigid, super rigid. Okay, so let me finish this up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so on this one you can see that I coated it almost 100%. On a lot of these, I didn't cover it 100%. I only covered it about this much. I left there a little bit of pattern through the gray so that you could see that it's not 100%. I didn't want it to be like sterile. Okay, now as you can see on this one, the flex paste, I didn't completely cover it. I left some gray showing. That was by intent. But I do think 100% coating of the flex paste will get you more of a even coat of snow. It just depends on what you're looking for. All right, so now to apply the first layer of snow, I watered down some PVA in a cup here, and I'm using the same brush that I applied the flex paste, but I'm going to just brush the paint. I'm going to brush the glue on, and we're going to get 100% coating over this entire tile. Okay, so give me a second to coat this whole thing with glue and water. I watered it down. It's about a 50-50 mix of Elmer's PVA, Elmer's white school glue, and water. And I'll be right back. So now the tile is completely covered, and I put it on fairly thick, and I wanted the glue to go all the way to the edge And it's okay if it goes a little bit over the edge. It's okay. Every little divot or hole that's in the tile, I tried to fill with flex paste, but if I didn't, I hit it with the glue. Now I put the tile in here so that I can sprinkle glue onto, so I can sprinkle my Woodland Scenics snow onto it. And what I do is I shake it. As you can see, I'm using the sifter, and I'm lightly coating the entire thing. All right, at this angle, and I come at it at this angle, lightly coating it, making sure I get all the way to the edge, and then I continue to coat it from each angle until there's no shiny glue remaining. But that's not going to be enough. So I continue sifting until I don't see any gray underneath. When I shake the glue off, I keep saying glue, but when I shake this snow off of the tile, you're going to see gray underneath. But this is only the first coat. This is what I call the base coat of snow. And the reason why I use this snow, because it adds a little bit of a glitter, a little reflective element to it. Okay, just pile the glue on. And then what we do is normally I'm going to let this dry probably for an hour or two. Alright, now I take a tile that I've already did the base coat, not like this one. This is one I just did but on camera, but this is one I did off camera. And I've already shaken off all the extra snow. So now I'm coming at it with scenic cement, okay, with a sprayer. And I'm going to move the camera so that you can kind of see. Okay, so now, I mean, you can see how this has got kind of a gray look to it around the edges. Well, I'm going to specifically hit the sprayer probably from a good 6 inches. And if you notice how it's just misting. And what this is a water and PVA mixture. I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that 90% of this goes on my tile and not on the paper that I have underneath. You could do this outside and not have to worry about newspaper, but you know, hey. I'm trying to wet it down so you can see. And anywhere that is gray, I'm trying to get a little extra. If that makes sense. Okay, so the whole thing is gray, is watered down again. Then I take my snow yet again, second coat, and I'm going over the gray areas. Which on this piece is mostly around the edges. Okay. So now that's a second coat. And we set that off to dry. All right, now after you shake off the second coat, you're going to get a fairly thick coat of snow on your tile. If you want to lock this in and make it even more secure, you can always go over with another coat of the scenic cement and apply that as a sealer. When it dries, it'll be rock solid. I don't think I need to do that on this. Nothing's really coming off on my hands. And you just play on that. You got your terrain pieces, which I can probably go back over and add a little more snow on these as well. And you got your guys. And that's going to be on the table. And the reason why I'm doing these is I'm doing it because 148 Tactic, the first series of miniatures, is the 101st in the Ardennes and the 26 Volksgrenadiers in the Ardennes during December, which has snow. So that's why I did that. All right, well, thanks for coming out and watching me progress. When I get all of these done, I'll do another 148 Tactic project update, and you'll get to see all of them finished. So come back to the channel to see all of them complete. That probably would have been a better figure to showcase.